Have you ever felt that strange primal sensation? That feeling of being watched when you're walking through a dense forest? It's a whisper from our deepest evolutionary past, a time when our ancestors were not the masters of their domain. We often dismiss it as an overactive imagination, a trick of the light and shadow. But what if it wasn't a trick? What if that feeling was an ancestral memory of a world where we were the ones hiding? Imagine the rustle in the bushes isn't a deer or a fox, but something much, much larger. Something with scales, teeth like daggers, and a gaze perfected over millions of years. Let's travel back in time, not just to see dinosaurs, but to change one single cataclysmic moment. What would our planet look like? Where would humanity fit into this terrifyingly majestic picture? Welcome to IfVerse, where imagination meets reality. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your own what-if idea below. So buckle up your curiosity, step into the IfVerse. We're about to explore the ultimate what-if. To understand the world that could have been, we first have to understand the world that was, and the day it all ended. Picture it, 66 million years ago, the late Cretaceous period. The planet is a vibrant, thriving ecosystem, a hothouse world teeming with life. Dinosaurs of every shape and size imaginable dominated every ecological niche. In the oceans, colossal mosasaurs hunted with terrifying efficiency. In the skies, pterosaurs with wingspans as wide as small airplanes soared on thermal updrafts. On land, the diversity was simply staggering. This was their world, and they had ruled it for an astonishing 150 million years. Everything changed on a single terrible day. Somewhere out in the vast, cold emptiness of space, a rock was on a collision course with destiny. This wasn't just any rock. It was an asteroid about 10 kilometers, 6 miles in diameter. Traveling at an incomprehensible speed, it screamed through Earth's atmosphere. It slammed into the shallow waters of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact was cataclysmic, releasing more energy than billions of atomic bombs combined. It created the Chicxulub crater, a scar over 150 kilometers wide. The immediate aftermath was a hellscape. Mega tsunamis washed hundreds of miles inland. Earthquakes shook the entire globe. Volcanic eruptions spewed ash and gas into the atmosphere. Superheated debris shot back up into space. That debris rained down across the planet, igniting widespread wildfires that consumed entire continents. The sky, once blue, would have turned a terrifying, glowing red before being plunged into an impenetrable darkness. A thick blanket of soot and dust, an impact winter, would have enveloped the globe, blocking out the sun for months, maybe even years. This perpetual twilight was the final nail in the coffin of the dinosaurs. With the sun gone, photosynthesis stopped. Plants withered and died on a global scale. The herbivores who fed on them starved first. Then the carnivores who preyed on the herbivores followed suit. It was a chain reaction of extinction, a complete collapse of the food web that had sustained the age of reptiles for eons. It wasn't just the size of the dinosaurs that doomed them, it was their specialization. When your entire world is built around a specific set of environmental conditions, you are incredibly vulnerable when those conditions change in the blink of a cosmic eye. But as the giants fell, who was left to inherit the Earth? While the dinosaurs were having their catastrophic final act, our ancestors were playing a very different role in the grand theatre of life. They were the understudies, they were the stagehands, they were creatures scurrying in the shadows. During the Mesozoic, mammals were mostly small and often nocturnal. They lived on the margins of a dinosaur-dominated world. Think shrew-like creatures, think rat-like creatures, think badger-like creatures, living in burrows, hiding in the undergrowth. They were warm-blooded. That helped in cooler temperatures. Many were generalists, eating insects, eating seeds, eating scraps. When the asteroid struck and impact winter began, Those traits became a huge advantage. Small size-y, mat, far less food needed than a triceratops. Burrowing offered protection from the blast and chaos. Warm-bloodedness helped in the cold. A generalist diet meant food from insects, roots, fungi, carcasses. They were perfectly, if unintentionally, prepared for the apocalypse. The extinction event was a great filter. It wiped the slate clean. About 75% of species went extinct, including all non-avian dinosaurs. That created an ecological vacuum. Jobs held by dinosaurs were suddenly open. Large herbivores, apex predators, mid-sized browsers. Nature abhors a vacuum. Mammals rushed in to fill those roles. A planetary-scale job fair for the meek and the small. This was the dawn of the Cenozoic, the age of mammals. Millions of years of explosive evolutionary radiation followed. Some returned to the sea, whales, dolphins. Others took to the air, bats, on land, rhinos, elephants, horses, saber-toothed cats. One branch the primates would eventually lead to us. Our entire existence is owed to that one rock from space. Now, let's rewind. What if the Chicxulub asteroid had been on a slightly different trajectory? What if it had zipped past Earth, a celestial near miss that left the planet and its dominant rulers completely unscathed? Welcome to our first alternate reality, a world where the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event never happened. In this timeline, the Cenozoic doesn't become the age of mammals. Instead, the Mesozoic era simply continues, rolling into what we might call the Neo-Cretaceous period. The dinosaurs, having survived the cosmic bullet, continue their long and successful reign, evolving and adapting over the next 66 million years. Imagine the dinosaurs of today in the year 2025. They wouldn't be the same creatures we see in the fossil record. Over 66 million years, they would have changed dramatically. The famous titans like Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops would be long extinct, replaced by their more advanced descendants. Perhaps the Tyrannosaur lineage would have evolved to be even larger, or maybe they would have become smaller, faster and more intelligent pack hunters, developing complex social structures to take down their ever-evolving prey. Their arms, famously tiny, might have even disappeared completely, or conversely, become more developed for grappling. The herbivores would have evolved right alongside them. The hadrosaurs, or duck-billed dinosaurs, were already incredibly successful. With another 66 million years, they might have developed even more elaborate crests for communication, producing a symphony of sounds across the plains. The armored ankylosaurs might have evolved more formidable defenses, perhaps developing chemical sprays like a skunk, or more active weaponized tails. The sauropods, the long-necked giants, faced a challenge as the climate cooled and forests changed. Maybe they would have shrunk in size to adapt, or perhaps they'd have migrated to the remaining tropical zones, becoming rarer, more specialized giants in a changing world. The world they inhabit would be a patchwork of old and new. The global climate has been on a general cooling and drying trend for millions of years. This would have forced the dinosaurs to adapt. The vast, humid jungles of the Cretaceous would have given way to more open woodlands, grasslands and savannas. This change in environment is a huge driver of evolution. It would favour speed, stamina and social behaviour. The classic image of a lone T-Rex in a swamp would be replaced by something far more dynamic and complex. How would the smaller creatures, including our mammalian ancestors, cope in a world where the reptilian giants never gave up their throne? In this dinosaur-dominated 2025, the ecosystems would be, well, fundamentally different. The rise of grasslands, which was such a key event in our own timeline, would actually be a much more contested process. In our world, grasses co-evolved with grazing mammals. The constant chewing and trampling, bison, horses, antelope, favoured grasses that could grow back quickly from their base. But how would grasses fare against giant, multi-ton sauropods or vast herds of hadrosaurs? These mega herbivores would be less like lawnmowers and more like bulldozers, potentially ripping up the turf, roots and all. The world might not be covered in the gentle, rolling prairies we know, but in a chaotic mix of ferns, hardy shrubs, and patchy, tough grasses. The very air we breathe might be different too. During the Mesozoic, oxygen levels were significantly higher than they are today, which may have been a factor in allowing dinosaurs to reach such gigantic sizes. If dinosaurs and the lush Mesozoic flora had continued to thrive, it's possible that oxygen levels would have remained higher. This would have some pretty profound effects on the planet. For one, it would make wildfires far more frequent and intense, creating a landscape constantly shaped by fire. It would also impact physiology. Insects, which breathe through tiny tubes in their bodies, could grow to, honestly, nightmarish sizes in an oxygen-rich environment. Imagine dragonflies with 3-foot wingspans and spiders the size of dinner plates. The biodiversity of smaller animals would be shaped entirely by the constant, crushing pressure of dinosaur predation. In our world, mammals diversified into daytime niches after the dinosaurs were gone. Here, that would never happen. The daytime would be a landscape of fear. Most mammals would likely remain small, nocturnal and arboreal, or maybe fossorial, meaning burrowing. Let's not forget one of the most exciting discoveries in modern paleontology. Many dinosaurs, especially theropods, raptors, tyrannosaurs, had feathers. These weren't necessarily for flight, insulation, display, signaling. With another 66 million years to evolve, this trait could have gone in some truly fascinating directions. Forget the scaly monsters of classic movies. The apex predators of this alternate 2025 might be covered in intricate plumage, using brilliantly coloured feathers to attract mates, intimidate rivals, or even camouflage themselves against the changing foliage of the seasons. The dromaeosaurs, the family of dinosaurs that includes Velociraptor, were already known for their intelligence and pack-hunting behaviour. Given 66 million more years, their brains could have continued to develop. We could be looking at dinosauroids or raptor sapiens. Highly intelligent predators with problem-solving skills that rival those of primates or dolphins in our timeline. Imagine a pack of 6-foot-tall, feathered hunters that can communicate with complex calls, set traps for their prey, and pass down knowledge from one generation to the next. This rise in intelligence wouldn't be limited to predators. The prey would have to keep up in a constant evolutionary arms race. Pachycephalosaurs might have developed larger brains. Hadrosaurs, with their complex vocal abilities, could have developed a true language, allowing for sophisticated communication about predators, food sources, and migration routes. This scenario presents a chilling question. Could another species have achieved human-level intelligence before us? If these dinosauroids became the planet's first sentient tool-using species, they would have had a 60 million year head start on us. By the time our primate ancestors were just beginning to climb down from the trees, the world might have already been home to sprawling dinosaur cities, complex societies, and a level of technology we can only guess at. Would they have been philosophers and artists, or ruthless conquerors? But what if the story went another way? Let's consider a second scenario. The asteroid misses, but the dinosaurs still have to contend with the natural climate change that was already underway. The Earth continued its slow, inexorable cooling trend, leading to the ice ages of the Pleistocene. For a long time, we pictured dinosaurs as sluggish reptiles basking in the sun. That would be a death sentence in a colder world. However, modern science shows a more complex picture. Many dinosaurs were likely mesotherms or even fully endothermic. Warm-blooded like birds and mammals, they generated their own body heat. Feathers would have been fantastic insulation, trapping warm air next to the skin. So instead of dying out, Many dinosaurs might have adapted. Imagine woolly tyrannosaurs or fluffy, cold-adapted raptors stalking shaggy-coated Triceratops descendants across snowy plains. This ice age with dinosaurs would be brutal and unforgiving. Giants like the sauropods would have struggled. Their massive bodies would lose heat rapidly, and the huge amount of food they'd need would be almost impossible to find. They'd likely go extinct, or be forced into small tropical refuges near the equator. The world would belong to the more adaptable, mid-sized, and well-insulated species. The oceans would change too. Great marine reptiles like mosasaurs might be replaced by cold-adapted aquatic reptiles, perhaps evolving blubber like modern seals or whales. Or maybe mammals get their big break here, taking to the oceans earlier and more successfully, producing even greater diversity of whales, dolphins, and other marine mammals. The cold could be the great equalizer, culling the old guard and creating opportunities for the furry and the feathered. In either of these dinosaur-ruled worlds, the hot reptilian paradise or the cold feathered ice age, where does that leave us? Where are the primates? In the shadow of the dinosaurs, our ancestors would have faced a monumental challenge. Primates in our timeline evolved in the trees, developing grasping hands, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, and large brains for navigating a complex three-dimensional environment. These traits were our inheritance. But in a world with dinosaurs, the trees might not have been a safe haven. Feathered, climbing raptors or tree-dwelling reptilian predators could have made arboreal life just as dangerous as life on the ground. This constant, unrelenting predation pressure would have shaped primate evolution in profound ways. Our ancestors would have been forced to become even more cryptic, more nocturnal, and more intelligent. Perhaps they would have become master escape artists, developing gliding membranes like flying squirrels to move between trees without touching the dangerous forest floor. Or maybe they would have gone the other way, doubling down on a subterranean lifestyle, becoming expert burrowers with reduced eyesight but a keen sense of smell and touch. Our lineage might have split, with some primates remaining in the trees and others finding refuge underground. The development of key human traits would be severely delayed, if not prevented entirely. Bipedalism, walking on two legs, evolved in our ancestors as they moved from forests into the open savanna. But in a world patrolled by swift, intelligent theropods, leaving the cover of the trees to walk upright on the plains would be suicide. It's hard to imagine our ancestors making that leap when the open ground was a killing field. This means the hands would not be freed up for tool use, a critical step in our cognitive development. Walking upright, freeing the hands, using tools, growing bigger brains might never have gotten started. So, in this alternate 2025, creatures that look like us probably wouldn't exist. The primate lineage might still be around, but it would consist of small, clever, animalistic creatures, perhaps resembling lemurs or tarsiers, forever confined to their niche. They would not be the ones building cities, writing poetry, or gazing at the stars. The spark of human consciousness might never have had the chance to ignite. The heirs of the earth would be scaly or feathered, but they would not be us. But let's be optimistic for a moment. Let's indulge in a bit of speculative fantasy and imagine, against all odds, a primate species achieving sentience. What would a human civilization look like growing in the shadow of dinosaurs? The very concept of a city would have to be reimagined. Early settlements couldn't be sprawling open villages on fertile plains. They would have to be fortresses, cliff-dwelling cities with high walls, moats, retractable bridges. Technology would evolve driven by one need: defense. Metallurgy wouldn't make plows first. It would make stronger walls, bigger spears, and massive ballistae to pierce a theropod's hide. Culture would be shaped by siege mentality, constantly aware of monsters outside the walls. Dinosaurs wouldn't be wonders resurrected from fossils. They'd be constant, deadly threats. This would permeate myths, religion, and art. Reptilian deities, feathered demons, heroic dinosaur slayers. The scientific revolution would focus on biology and chemistry, developing poisons, repellents, and taming techniques, rather than physics or astronomy. Globalized civilization and interconnected trade would be fantasy. Each settlement would be an isolated island in prehistoric danger. Progress slow, fragmented, always under threat. Humanity, scattered, embattled, living in the shadow of Earth's true rulers, not masters but clever, persistent pests. Stepping back from these alternate timelines, we're left with a profound sense of cosmic contingency. Our world, our civilization, our very consciousness, it all hangs by the thinnest of threads. The story of life on Earth is a chaotic and unpredictable epic, where a single stray asteroid can divert the river of evolution into a completely new channel. The absence of that one cataclysmic event 66 million years ago doesn't just leave us with a world full of dinosaurs. It creates a planet that is fundamentally alien to us, a place where the evolutionary dice were rolled again, and our number simply didn't come up. We are the children of the Chicxulub crater.